Getting away from it all is becoming increasingly difficult. Wherever you are, it seems that a motorway or a trunk road are never far away. And there's pressure to build on the few green patches that are left. So it's not surprising that the recent government white paper, Rural England, has sparked a fierce debate. Glossy brochures have appeared, new organisations have sprung up. Pressure groups and politicians alike claim they're giving rural people a voice. But have they actually listened to the people who live and work in the country? Tonight we hear from the residents of 3 Wiltshire villages who provide the inspiration for a fictitious village called Acrebury.
Trouble's going and gone.
Rural England. It's here in the tranquility of village life that we like to find a national identity. But the timeless quality of the countryside is just an illusion. From the open spaces of Salisbury Plain to the ancient villages of the West Country, much is changing. Housing estates are growing, schools and shops are closing, farm jobs are fewer and farther between. It's this changing countryside that inspired the fictitious village of Acrebury, transmitted daily on BBC Wiltshire Sound. It's the everyday story of country folk.
Oh, good morning, Miss Cottrell. What can I do for you? Church bell fun.
Amongst the villagers are Miss Cottrell, newcomer, and Major Harcourt, landowner.
Almost made £10,000, as a matter of fact.
Excellent. Do we know where it's all come from?
It's a solo performance. Jerry Hughes writes and voices all the characters. His favourite, farm worker Fred Partridge.
Blimey, he'd a pong a bit, done her. Got every brand of aftershave shoved on his face imaginable, I reckon.
Jerry's characters are drawn from the villages of his native Wiltshire. His storylines echo the concerns of people living in the countryside. It's their village gossip. Much of village gossip revolves around everyday matters.
Hi, Mr. Glass.
Lionel Glass is a son of the village. Roger Clements came from the Midlands 12 years ago to run the post office. He knows it'll take longer to become a true villager.
My ex-neighbour, he used to say that 50 years was nothing. It had to be 100 years at least.
That's right. Yeah. Yes, I'm afraid we can't quite run to that.
Well, no, I don't think I shall.
I think I probably know visually more people in Shurston than the average person. Yes, that's right. Yeah. We like to think we're the hub of the village. We get asked all sorts of questions. We seem to be the source of information for an awful lot of people.
Soap. Soap?
Yes, soap. S-O-A-P. Save Our Acrebury Post Office. The P, you understand, for the sake of our cause, encapsulates the 2 words of post and office. That is a brilliant idea, Miss Weaver.
With the coming of the car and that, people have just got out and done their shopping at other places. Tetbury, Monfrey, Yate. And people now are not so reliant on everything in the village, but we have got the post office, which is a good thing. 2 pubs, if they shut one of them, I mean, we'd still be left with 1 pub, but if they shut the post office, we got nothing.
I'm 84, you know. I couldn't cope if the post office were to shut. I can't get buses into town, not at my age.
Quite, Mrs. Truscott. We're all in the same boat. Acrebury is a large village. We need a post office. That's why we must campaign to the bitter end. And we'd be right behind you, Miss Weaver.
Well, there are other retail outlets, but having said that, of course the pressure's been on since they opened the supermarkets in Malmesbury.
Oh yes, well, I must admit, I do myself occasionally, you know.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, we've...
There's still a thriving post office in Shurston. But at the other end of the village, Platt stores are losing their mobile customers to supermarkets in nearby Malmesbury and Chippenham.
Well, we've been here 10 years now.
Yes, just on 10 years.
You know, the sales went up the first 2 or 3 years of our being here, and since then, you know, they've gradually declined as the older people in the village have died, and you have younger people and commuters moving into the village, and they tend to work, and so they'll do their shopping out of the village, and we are purely a convenience store now. We take each day as it comes at the moment. Whether it will be open at Christmas, we don't know.
For many, the morning rush to the city is part of country life, but Chris Pearce's journey is in the opposite direction.
I used to work in Swindon City Centre for a number of years running a shop, and that was mayhem trying to get out of there.
Each morning, Chris commutes from his home on an estate in Swindon out to the country.
It's nice to think that I'm going out into the country and they're not. They're going to go into their little offices, I'm not.
Carol, you said last night you wanted to be up early this morning.
Oh, it's all right, I'm up, Dad. I don't know how you managed getting up this early when you were farming.
Had to. We had cows to milk. We'd even have to go out on a wet morning like this one, because the cows couldn't wait.
Chris works at a farm in the Wiltshire village of Bishopston. But he's not a farm worker, he's a butcher. Where he works is no ordinary farm. 12 years ago, Eastbrook Farm underwent a quiet revolution. It went organic. The emphasis was shifted from a reliance on chemical fertilisers and antibiotics back to good husbandry. Farming practices abandoned in the post-war push for efficiency were rediscovered. The changes are being driven by Helen Browning. She now employs 11 people. Under the old system, Helen estimates that the farm would have been run by just 5 workers.
In terms of the size of the employment here, we're employing the sort of number of people here now that were employed when my father took over the farm. And during the last 20 years, on average, 10 to 12,000 people have been made unemployed from agriculture every year. So we are reversing that trend, and we're reversing, I believe, some of the damage that's been done to the environment, to the countryside, through intensive agriculture over that time as well.
We're not allowed to feed calf powder, so they get whole milk, fed twice a day. The cows are milked next door, straight down the pipeline into the churn, and then round the corner into the calf shed. Helen's found a very good market with her organic meat and corn. There's a big enough demand to keep us expanding.
Organic farming does tend to alter the way the countryside looks. And in some respects, it does take it backwards a bit, because organic farming is first and foremost a mixed farming system. It's a rotational farming system. So it'll be that patchwork effect, which I think is very attractive in the countryside. I think the public don't really like to see fields and fields, monoculture, or seed rape, or monoculture wheat. We tend to, as organic farmers, also want to have smaller fields because we're keeping livestock, and livestock get rather lost in some of these great arable fields. So we tend to bring the field size down, and we also want to have more hedges because the livestock need hedges, they need the shelter. So organic farming does really affect what the countryside looks like, and I think in many ways it makes it a much more appealing countryside from the outsider's perspective.
Helen's quiet revolution has gone a step further. Animals raised organically on the farm are butchered here for her own meat retail business. It employs a further 12 people, but not all of them are from the village.
Most of the farm labour lives in and around the village. Really, we're the odd ones out, being the ones that commute solely because of this. We're employed for our skills, and those skills aren't available in the village.
organic farmers not only employ more people on the farm, but because there aren't any really big process, or not very many big processes actually involved in producing organic products, many organic farms are doing the kind of things that we're doing here, processing on site. There's a lot of industry going on organic farms, largely because of necessity. They've had to do that in order to secure their markets. So I think it would make a massive difference to rural employment if more organic farming was taken up.
The British government pays some subsidies to farmers like Helen, but the European Commission's Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP, rewards intensive agriculture. The result? In Britain, 2 separate handouts encouraging opposite objectives. It was hoped the government's recent rural white paper would find a consistent set of policies for the countryside.
I don't think the rural white paper can hope to address the pull me push you situation that we've got with agricultural policy today. That has to happen in Brussels. It's not until we get another reform of the CAP that we're going to get a more sensible shift in the right direction towards putting the environment at the heart of the CAP. The rural white paper, which is a national policy, cannot really hope to do more than signal the direction which this government would like to go in.
Just outside Shurston, the fruits of the CAP can be seen. Once, Pinckney Park's 500-acre estate was worked as a mixed farm. Now the farming is contracted out. The farm workers went and the buildings became redundant.
This building, Helen, here, which looks, some people say it looks rather like a railway station. It was actually the latest word in dairying in 1890, and you'll see the date stone around the other side. And actually in there you can still see the tiles, the painted tiles, where my wife can remember the butter actually being made. We've made this into 3 units now. We've got a girl who paints china, a picture framer, and a furniture restorer.
We moved here when I was 7, and my dad was the gamekeeper. When we used to live here, there were 4 or 5 farm workers working on the farm, and now there's probably 50 or 60 people here.
This building was the old granary, and when we got here there was about 30 or 40 tons of oats on the first floor, and we've now got a saddler in that half, and then a computer company on the bottom half.
Look, Dad, on here we can see that you could have 4 industrial buildings in this yard. If, say, you've got a light carpentry business in one, or a stonemason in the other, you can't have cattle every afternoon blocking the yard entrance.
Oh, I can see what you mean now, Carol.
If there is a political will to produce jobs within easy range of people's homes, this sort of development, I think, will become more prevalent.
How soon do you intend applying for planning permission for the outside units, then?
Straight away.
This was once a dairy. Now mustard, mint sauce and jellies are made here.
I think it's brilliant. I mean, I'd much rather see the work units in rural areas than the old buildings just go into rack and ruin, because they won't convert them in some cases, and you know, I think it's a brilliant idea, and it also keeps people nearer to the village, not having to travel so far to go to work.
I retired to Acrebury for a quiet life, you know, Miss Weaver.
There's never anything quiet about this village, Dorothy.
There won't be if these industrial units at Green Farm get the go-ahead. It's going to mean a lot more cars and lorries coming through here.
Well, I think we just ought to...
on the basis that we know there's a lot of concern about the traffic. Maybe some of us might like to give up. If perhaps 2-car households might be able to reduce to 1.
In Teffont, the village's environmental forum considers traffic.
Dream ticket.
There's no reason not to have a nice dream, though, because it helps you, it gives you the energy to work, really.
If it was a fairly small piece of land, can I draw everyone's attention to that shell?
I got loads and loads of butterflies in my house, actually. A couple of years ago, I went to Bristol and I took a basket with some dried flowers and things with me, and when I got to the to some relatives in Bristol. I put down the basket and all these butterflies flew out.
There it goes. Look at that. Low energy light bulb, so it won't get hurt.
No, I'm afraid it isn't a low energy. No.
I think it is such a deep human need, really, to have open space and silence and closeness to nature, that although we've moved so far away in many aspects of late 20th century life, it is such a being need, I think, for humanity, that it is so vital that the countryside isn't deeply harmed.
Everyone has a stake in the countryside. These volunteers from Swindon are helping to manage one of Wiltshire Wildlife Trust's conservation projects. They're recreating a habitat for butterflies.
Well, I've been interested in the environment since I was a kid, basically. I've worked before I went to university, and so it was a good opportunity for me to go to university and study the environment. And part of my course is to come and do a year working with the BTCV. It gives me the practical experience I need, obviously, for the future, because it's the job I want to do. So, also, it's a sense of achievement as well. When you look back on what you've done, you think, yeah, you know, it's really good. I get a lot from it.
It's a lot of fun more than anything else. But I'm learning a tremendous amount about the countryside too, and how to manage woodlands too. I think it's all very well learning things in theory, but you only really find it out when you actually come up to do it.
Once the trees are cut back and the sunlight allowed in, violets can grow again. Their leaves are food for the marsh fritillary caterpillar.
I'm very proud of what the Wiltshire Wildlife Trust are doing. I can't see as them be doing any better a job as I did when I used to cut your foliage and fell your trees for logging. Come off it, Fred. You were haphazard. These people are doing it properly. Have you seen what they actually be a-doing? One of they fellas is catching caterpillars and looking at butterflies. That ain't managing woods.
Were you saying that one of the butterflies was a caterpillar for like
10 months of the
10
year.
months of the year?
Yeah, it's marsh fritillary.
Is it really?
Yeah, they hibernate right below the devil's bit scabious plants. Sometimes the plants are rather small, so they wander around looking for other ones. So in this wood, you tend to find them wandering everywhere, including the car park and the rides, just looking for plants to eat.
Woodland clearance is all very well, Major Harcourt, but what's intent doing when these here volunteers have done all the work? I envisage school children coming here on educational trips to learn about the countryside and woodland wildlife. Ain't gonna do the place much good, having hordes of kids roaming all over it and going where them shouldn't.
At Farmer Giles' farmstead, there's a welcome for everyone. In an attempt to diversify, 16 acres have been put aside from the dairy business to create a tourist attraction.
Pardon? When did he die? When did Farmer Giles die? 1988, and he was 91 years old.
John Vining's father-in-law was the original Farmer Giles. Now John dons a smock to welcome children from town and country.
It's absolutely amazing that the nearer the centre of a town the children come from, the smaller the animal they prefer. I mean, I would imagine this school, being a Westbury school, will prefer like the ponies, donkeys and sheep. Whereas if you go right in the middle of Southampton or the middle of Winchester, somewhere like that, they prefer the gerbils and the rabbits. And if you get a country school, then they like the Shire horses and the cows the best.
The farmstead with its rare breeds and aged tractors is on the edge of the pretty village of Teffant. Here, it appears the world really has stood still. Last month, the village's chestnut fair was vying with the farmstead for visitors' attention. Teffant's artistic community had their wares on sale. Amongst those browsing was villager David Parker. He's the local councillor and chair of Salisbury District Council's Planning Committee.
That's incredible. Do you buy the frames? And then we've been very fortunate in that the village has attracted the sort of people who want to protect it for future generations. And I think that with that in mind, they've done as little as they need to do to keep that balance and to keep it in a time warp without being old and fuddy-duddy.
To commission, but it's more expensive.
David has had to consider plans for new houses in the village and John Vining's plans for new buildings at Farmer Giles' farmstead.
What we wanted for the winery building was to extend the far agricultural building straight into the side of hill 60 feet. And then we were going to put a 20-foot lean-to on it, which would have given us exactly the same area. But the planners decided that they didn't want us spreading up the hill and that they wanted us to turn back into the complex. And I do believe it's turned out to be rather a shame that this building does stand up a little bit like a sore thumb. The planners seem to be able in 10 minutes to be able to tell you how much better their idea is. Eventually this gentleman will leave and the village will be very happy again.
It is being raised at the district council as to whether somebody living in a village like this, myself as chairman of the parish council and a parishioner, as well as being the district councillor, whether in fact I'm too close to applications in this village and whether I should not have speak or vote on them and not have a say at all. That is not a rule yet.
We're taking the planners and the chairman of the planning committee to the Ombudsman because we feel that the chairman of the planning has objected to absolutely every application we've ever made.
I'm only one voice, one vote on the district council's planning committee. We have to consider all the factors and weigh up the application on those factors. There's nothing personal in it whatsoever.
But what sort of future are we creating for these children? Will there be jobs for them? Will they be able to afford to live in the countryside? Could their village be swallowed up by suburbia?
I'd like to say that when I die, for my grandchildren, I have left something that I can be proud of. And I think the only way that you can do that is to fight to retain what we've got. We've got a certain quality of life here. We want it to remain. We want to keep it as it is.
In the middle of Bishopston, a new housing development is planned on Church Commissioners' land, but it won't be meeting the need for affordable rented housing in the village. It'll be housing for sale.
In the middle of the field, there's a very, very old apple tree. It's bordered by 3 listed buildings, and therefore we want it to remain as it is. It is the one place where the children can play.
Well, what it's going to look like is a crescent of houses running round here like this. The Laurel Cottage is a listed cottage, Orchard Cottage over that way is listed, and so the development will be kept back away from those properties. It is designed to fit in well. Here in the Winces you've got relatively low cost council housing. Our development will fit in with it to the extent that you design it so that the most dense part of our development is at this end, and then we come round to lower density where the surrounding housing is.
This is the country. Why make it into the town?
New houses on the edge of Bishopston have already brought a touch of suburbia to the countryside, and they fuelled a debate about newcomers. As packing boxes from America are collected for bonfire night, the question is, do property prices set the newcomers apart, or will they in time be accepted into the village family?
This is going to be the mama of all bonfires.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
I've been away in America for 20 years.
Well, they must have had a big furniture van there.
We have one in town.
Oh, right.
Where we lived in Texas, my closest neighbours were 2 miles away.
Hang on, chaps.
I'm sort of a newcomer. My auntie was Mrs. Merrill down at the school.
Oh, she was my form teacher.
Well, I went to school here for a little while.
She said to my brother one day, she said, Georgie Rosal, she said, you're going to have to pull your socks up. What did he do? Bend down and pull his socks up, doesn't he?
I don't think I'm a newcomer. Am I a newcomer? Do you feel as though you're a newcomer?
I'm on the village hall committee, and if you have an opinion and you make that a statement, people say, well, he's only a newcomer from the town. So the best thing to do is keep quiet until you've been here 10 years.
They're just pulling your leg.
I been here in this here village all me blessed life, and these haven't been here yours yet, and you'd be taking over everything.
A village has to have new blood, Mr. Partridge. If it hadn't have been for my drive, this village wouldn't have a Christmas pantomime this year.
Ah, that's as may be, but it still don't stop you from being a blessed newcomer.
But no, I mean, most people are all right. It's fine, you know.
Been here 3 years, still put his hand in his pocket in the pub.
I tell you what I like about the village. No street lights. You have to get special eyes in this village. You can have to see in the dark. It's absolutely black. I want to die here. I don't want to leave this village. I like it. Not unless I'm kicked out.
You've decided to take over this village then from us what have lived here all our lives. You'd be as bad as Dorothy Cottrell. You newcomers will never take the place of we true villagers.
Well, not really, because the thing is, you're going to run out of that sort of person, aren't you? You're going to run. If people don't move into the village, you'll run out. You'll run out of people, won't you? Because people are becoming elderly now, and if you don't have new people moving in the village, it'll die, won't it? That's the thing.
You don't know nothing about the countryside. You leaves gates open, you got unruly animals. You comes here and you brings all your city ways with you.
What city ways?
And you blessed kids.
What city ways have I brought?
Hey.
What city ways have I brought then?
It annoys me that people come out and say, oh, well, what's this smell and all this business? Well, we say, well, we're mud cart, we're spreading pig's business and stuff, you know.
Fertiliser.
You know, oh no, not fertiliser, because we're fully only. You mustn't mention that word on our place. We're organic.
S-H-1-T.
Yeah.
Good job.
In my days, Miss Cottrell, these only had one guy on top the bonfire. I've seen about half a dozen chucked on this and so far, and these can tell which ones is newcomers and which is locals.
How could you possibly, Mr. Partridge?
Well, the newcomers guys is dressed in tweeds, and the locals guys is dressed in tatty old jeans with the odd splash of cow shit on them.
All gone.
Say bye-bye, guys.
Guy Fawkes is all gone.
That's it. He won't possess anymore.
You'll have to make another one for next year now.
Bloody hell.
Oh, no, because he's melted.
That's one firework. Straighten fuse like the tip and run like hell. Right, that'll do.
The first few, I think. Scary.
Lot on them here tonight, isn't there?
Yeah, well, they keep coming in. They keep coming in.
And I think the number of arguments we've had in this village since last year's bonfire.
2 of the farms produce muck on the road because we've got cattle and livestock.
Is Dorothy Cottrell talking to you yet about your Carol's new barn conversions, Bill?
We get massive complaints.
Yes, she bought me a hot dog just now to settle the argument and said she's glad there'll be no more muck on the road. Not from us, at least.
Call me now on 0345 665555. Who should be looking after our countryside? Should we allow more development to keep our villages and market towns alive? Or must we preserve our green spaces at all costs? Join me now for Voices of the West on your BBC local radio station.